Recently, I came across a video from CBC talking about how dangerous coconut oil is. And first of all, the CBC in Canada, the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, is sort of like NBC or ABC in the United States. So when you see something from them, people are much more likely to pay attention. And the video was stating that
What's up?
The coconut oil industry has exploded, raking in over $650 million last year alone, with big brands making healthy claims. Healthy fat. No cholesterol or trans fat.
and putting it on the label as if this is a reason to purchase these products. I'll say, I do understand and agree that saying that something that never had cholesterol or trans fats, labeling it that way doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like labeling grapes cholesterol free. You don't need to, but it doesn't mean you should be eating them. So I do agree with that. But the thing that frustrated me with this video, because I had to watch it a few times to figure out why was I so annoyed by it, was that they're starting their video off by saying, look, they're trying to mislead you. And then the rest of the video is them trying to mislead you. Hello everyone, welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. The reason that I make these videos is to help you to understand that your physical health and mental health come together to create that overall sense of well-being. If you find this kind of video helpful, please consider subscribing. So what were the points they were trying to make in the movie? The first point was that coconut oil never had trans fats or cholesterol, so they shouldn't be labeling it that way because that's going to mislead people. I can agree with that. The second point was that the government doesn't endorse coconut oil or saturated fats at all. Okay. And then the third point that they were trying to make is that saturated fats are dangerous. Okay. So now, if you actually move forward through the movie and try to look at the evidence that they give to support this, it's when things start to fall apart. Because they do provide one bit of evidence, which is a study that was done by Marie-Pierre Saint-Onge.
We did research to look at the influence of MCT oil on energy expenditure and body composition.
Wait, what? You weren't testing coconut oil.
Not at all. We were testing MCT oil. It's very purified form. MCT is a subcomponent of coconut oil, and only 15% of coconut oil is MCT.
What her research did find was a small improvement in weight loss for overweight people who consumed MCT oil, but zippo on coconut oil.
It's often picked up as being a study that promotes coconut oil, but in fact, they're completely different.
There are brands that are promoting coconut oil as being healthy and something you can eat and cook with all the time.
Yes, it's unfortunate that coconut oil has been given this health halo.
So it's not healthy?
I would not consume it on a regular basis.
Implying that if the person that made the study wouldn't eat coconut oil on a daily basis, then we should be very concerned about eating coconut oil on a daily basis. I want to point out something. I absolutely agree with her that MCT oil and coconut oil are completely different things. And even for the reason that she gave, you only have 15% MCT oil in coconut oil. I agree with that. Why do I feel that coconut oil is better to use? Why have I always, when I spoke about oils, encouraged people rather than using MCT oil to use coconut oil? There's multiple reasons. The first one being, there are things in coconut oil that are healthy that you are not getting in MCT oil. In MCT oil, you're just getting the energy. One of the benefits that you get by actually eating the coconut oil is that you get lauric acid, which has antifungal, antimicrobial, antiviral properties that we've heard about, several doctors talking about that. And you also get caprylic acid, which has anti-inflammatory properties. Considering that you're still getting some MCT oil energy when you use the coconut oil, the benefits of having coconut oil, to me, seem to outweigh just the MCT oil. For the first part of this, if we just look at the scientist that she interviews, and the scientist claims and what she was studying doesn't actually dissuade us from eating coconut oil because coconut oil still has positive properties. This takes me to the second kind of interesting fear-related thing that I feel like they do in the movie. They try to say coconut oil, well, it's just not healthy. And without giving anything more than this doctor saying she wouldn't eat it. Okay, so then when you look at our world, how many people actually use coconut oil on a regular basis? I did a little search because I wanted to know, are there countries that use coconut oil more than us? And so I'm in Canada, and I was kind of just trying to figure out, so if I look at how much coconut oil is for sale on the shelves compared to all the other oils, are we using more or less coconut oil than other countries? And what it turns out is that the European Union, 27 countries, uses the most coconut oil, followed by India, the Philippines, China, Vietnam, and then the United States. What was really super interesting to me was how far Canada was down on the list, considering that this is the CBC making this video. We were number 18 on the list of 32. So first, Canadians aren't really using that much coconut oil. But second, countries like the European Union, China, Philippines, like India have been using coconut oil and continue to use coconut oil to today. So, they kind of implied that coconut oil was new. I mean, we know that we've been farming it for use for eating since 1890. It's not a new product. So again, I just felt like misleading information, and we're not really using more than the rest of the world, actually. We're using far less. Apparently, we're at number 18 on 32 countries. We're right in the middle there. So I want to go back to the part about cholesterol for a moment, because I want to point something out. Because the companies themselves are putting no cholesterol on the product as if no cholesterol is a selling point. So one of the things that frustrates me is this fear of cholesterol. So, and I feel like, when you talk about cholesterol, we have this idea that cholesterol causes heart problems. And our refusal to accept that carbohydrates are actually what causes heart problems puts us in the position where we're still looking at cholesterol as the culprit. And because we're still looking at cholesterol as the culprit, then we don't accept the piece of information that we've known for years, which is we need 1,000 milligrams of cholesterol daily. If we don't eat it, our body makes it. So do we eat enough cholesterol to get to our 1,000 milligrams? And that's the minimum that we need. Some people do not, because they're doing a low-fat diet. So what does that mean? That means that you eat your day, and then your body, when you don't eat enough of that cholesterol, makes some. This idea that by not eating cholesterol, we're somehow going to lower the amount of cholesterol, no, it frustrates me, because cholesterol is normal to have in our body, and our body tries to make sure we have it because it's involved in a lot of processes that we do, sending messages back and forth with neurotransmitters, solving and healing our body when we have damage. The cholesterol is involved in so many processes, the building of cell walls and etc. It's involved in so many processes, and yet we vilify it and try not to have it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So then eventually what I realized about this video that was kind of frustrating is that there was this background idea that in truth what they were really trying to say is that saturated fat is unhealthy. And because coconut oil is a saturated fat, they decided to focus on coconut oil and talk about how unhealthy it was. But the interesting thing about it is that when they talk about how unhealthy coconut oil is, they don't tell you why. So they don't give a real concrete reason to say coconut oil or saturated fat is unhealthy because X. They just keep saying it's unhealthy. There's too much. Look how much. Look how much. So, and look, the scientists wouldn't eat it. I'm watching the video, and everybody who's coming to the table and talking to this lady is claiming that they eat coconut oil regularly on a daily basis. They don't see a problem with it. But then when she tells them that there's 13 grams of saturated fat in coconut oil, each one of them was surprised. Not one person went, yeah, I know. Okay, so these were supposedly health conscious people who took a conscious decision to eat coconut oil every day, but you're telling me they did not know that coconut oil was saturated fat. The reason I have a hard time with that is, first of all, most people who take that decision to start using saturated fat is because they've learned that unsaturated fats are not healthy. So those polyunsaturated. And most people, if they've taken the time to learn that, what they also figure out is that those solid fats at room temperature are saturated fats. So I have a hard time believing that you were using coconut oil, possibly butter and lard, and didn't understand that there would have been a lot of saturated fat in it. That's my first question mark, that not one person in all the people that she interviewed went, yeah, I know. Of course, it's a solid fat. I want to pause here for a second and talk about what a saturated fat is, just for anybody who maybe doesn't know. A saturated fat is a fat where all the carbon bonds in that fat molecule have single chain bonds between them. There are no double bonds, only single bonds. That's what makes the fat saturated. Even a saturated fat, so coconut oil is 92% saturated fat, which means that there are some monounsaturated fats in there, right? It's a mixture, but it stays solid because 92% of it is saturated fat. Unsaturated fat is when you have double bonds between two carbon atoms. What happens when you have double bonds between two carbon atoms is that the fat molecule will no longer be straight. It's going to have a bend in it. The more double bonds you have in that fat molecule, the more, so it goes from being monounsaturated to polyunsaturated. The more double bonds you have, the less stable the oil is. What that means is that polyunsaturated fats have a tendency to want to fill those carbons up. So the carbons want to have single bonds between them. And so they're much more likely to accept a hydrogen or an oxygen bond. And what that does is it helps your oil to become rancid faster. So when exposed to air, but especially when exposed to heat, that oil will denature and become toxic in our bodies. So cooking with canola oil, cooking with all these polyunsaturated vegetable oils, etc., is dangerous to us because it creates free radicals and oxidative stress and right in our bodies. Monounsaturated fats, so avocado oil, olive oil, the liquid oils that are healthier, are healthy because they're giving us other things. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But just to make that differentiation, monounsaturated fats are liquid because at least one of the bonds between carbons is a double bond. So the easy way to know if you are eating a saturated or an unsaturated fat is when you leave it out at room temperature. If it doesn't turn into liquid, it's a saturated fat. I want to make sure that people understand that saturated fats, being more stable at room temperature and being more resistant to oxidation because all of their bonds are complete and single, that means that they actually are less likely to go rancid. And it also means that they have less chance of creating oxidative stress in our bodies and free radicals. So cooking with saturated oils, and again, doctors and researchers have talked about this. They try to claim that they don't know anything about the fat, but the truth is we do know that cooking with saturated fats, that your grandmother did, they cooked with butter and lard and, beef tallow and all the like, we know that cooking with saturated fats was what we did for years, and we didn't have all the health issues that we have today. And the majority of the health issues that we seem to have today are coming about partially because of these oxidative stress that we're living. Since they didn't have any true evidence to show us that saturated fat is bad, what they decided to do was scare us by letting us see how much saturated fat coconut oil has.
What if I told you, though, that 1 tablespoon of coconut oil has 13 grams of saturated fat?
Yuck. How does that compare with butter or olive oil?
Good question. It's the same as almost 2 tablespoons of butter.
All right.
Wow.
6.5 tablespoons of olive oil.
Okay.
Really?
That's crazy.
And, wait for it, 2.5 tablespoons of lard.
So what are they really talking about? They're talking about the fact that 92% of coconut oil is saturated fat versus For butter, for example, it's only 70 something percent that's saturated fat. The fact that for lard, it's only 50%, and the fact that for olive oil, it's like, I think, 30%. So that when you look at the numbers, well, of course, you have to have like 2 tablespoons to equal 1 or 6 tablespoons to equal 1 because you're trying to get how much saturated fat is in it. But we would never do that in real life because your reason for using which one of these oils is going to determine why you take that oil. So what I mean by that is this. If I decide to use coconut oil or any saturated oil, so coconut oil, butter, or lard, chances are very good I'm choosing that oil because either A, I want to cook with it and I want it to have a higher heat resistance so that I don't end up causing oxidative stress in my body. Or B, I would like some energy from it because solid fats, so saturated fats, are a good energy source. How do I know that? Because in our body, when we have any extra carbs or fats, or if we've overeaten and our body needs to put it away as fat, it doesn't put it away as an unsaturated fat. It puts it away as a saturated fat. We've all seen those pictures of this is what fat looks like in your body. We store our energy as saturated fat, as do cows, pigs, chickens. So here's the thing. Think about it. When you eat any kind of meat, you're eating saturated fat. Why? Because that's how animals store their energy. And so if when I store it in my body as saturated fat, when I go back to get it, I'm pulling it out and it's a good source of energy, then chances are if I eat that saturated fat, we know, when I eat saturated fat, it's a good source of energy. Now, can I get energy from unsaturated fat? Well, technically I can. But my body understands, and we understand, which is why, again, if I'm looking to make, for example, my fatty coffee, I'm not doing it with olive oil. I'm not doing it with avocado oil. I'm doing it with coconut oil because that's where the saturated fat is. So what's my reason for using an unsaturated fat, preferably a monounsaturated fat? Well, my reason for using an unsaturated fat would be, for example, if I decide to choose olive oil, it would be the oleic acid, which has anti-inflammatory properties. And probably it would also be for the linoleic acid, which is one of those essential amino acids that I can't get anywhere else. When you choose to use a monounsaturated fat, it's because you're trying to get health benefits. Now, don't get me wrong, there are health benefits to coconut oil too. I mentioned them earlier. These types of videos frustrate me because rather than give people good, clear information where they can by themselves look at what you've told them and take a decision, we try to push them in the direction to buy the products that are going to suit us. And I have a hard time with that because at the end of the day, each person is responsible for their own health, right? And I'm responsible for the health of my children. And if you're lying to me about why I shouldn't use something when you have no evidence to support why I shouldn't use it, then you're possibly pushing me in a direction to use a polyunsaturated fat. And the one thing we know about polyunsaturated fats is that when you heat them, they produce havoc in the body. And even when you don't heat them, exposure to oxygen causes them to have oxidation, which causes in our body a lot of problems. No matter how you use these products, polyunsaturated fats seem to be causing problems for people, but yet we still encourage people to use them because they're not saturated, even though we have no evidence that saturated fat is harmful and all kinds of evidence that saturated fat is healthy. It's frustrating because like 3 generations ago, we were not obese. 3 generations ago, we were not walking around with the amount of metabolic issues that we walk around with today. 3 generations ago, we were so much healthier when it came to the foods we were eating. Have we advanced in our ability to heal in terms of medical advances? Absolutely. We're cleaning our hands and sterilizing operating rooms, and we're learning much more about saving humans. I give them that. But I still feel that there's so much focus on making money and telling people how to eat healthy and keep themselves out of the hospital doesn't make money. Telling people how to eat healthy stops them from buying junk food, and that doesn't make money. You know what? If I don't want to buy junk food, you shouldn't be allowed to trick me into buying junk food. This video from CBC, when I found it, after just 3 days, at 100,000 views. I'm one person, and I know that this information is misleading. I'm making this video because I want you guys to know that this video is misleading. It's trying to scare you away from eating healthy, probably towards polyunsaturated fats that we know. They didn't say it in the video, but if you're not eating saturated, right? And it's unfortunate because we know that polyunsaturated are just a no-go, and we know that you have to be very careful cooking with monounsaturated. So if you're going to cook, having the ability to use coconut oil, butter, lard, ghee, those are helpful things to be able to use. I'm going to add something else to this. When you use coconut oil, you can leave it on the counter, and it takes more than 6 months of coconut oil sitting on a counter to go rancid. The stability, just being able to see that stability of the oil, that saturated fat of coconut oil all by itself with no chemical processing, just the fact that it was a healthy fat to begin with can sit on a counter and not go rancid. We really need to back up. We really need to try to understand the stability that saturated fats have, and therefore the fact that we have a bigger window to use them and still stay healthy. Because at the end of the day, that's what I think is the most important. That window that I have, that I can know I can fry with that, and it's still good. It doesn't take me 6 months to go through a container of coconut oil. So I know by the time I get to the bottom of it, it's still good. This is the big point. Those monounsaturated, you need to keep them in the fridge, because if you leave them out, like, it's days, and then you could lose your olive oil, or you could lose your avocado oil, right? Like, the fact that we don't understand this, but we need to understand this, because exposing these oils to air denatures them, changes them, and then harms us. Never gave us a real reason why coconut oil was harmful, except for the doctor wouldn't use it herself. They never gave us a reason why saturated fats are harmful. They just said, there's a lot of saturated fat, don't eat it. I'm asking you to go do your research. I'm asking you to understand the reasons that we would use saturated versus unsaturated, and then make a healthy choice. Because at the end of the day, your health, right? The health of your family. So I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. I really do love making these videos for you guys. And for everyone who's new here, I would love to see you become a wellness warrior for my wellness warriors. Thanks for coming back. So if you're new here, please subscribe. I want to let you know that I do have 2 ways that you can contribute to my production of videos. One way is through the Amazon links that I have in the description below. You can take one of the ones that relate to your country, put it on your desktop, label it Amazon. Anytime you want to do your Amazon shopping, if you start there, portion, so I get a little commission of anything you buy that can go towards the production of videos. The other way that you can help is you can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/Violet Rivera, and you can make a contribution directly to the production of videos. So I want to thank you guys for coming by. I love making these videos for you guys. This was an interesting one because I was just shocked to see it on my homepage, and I'm still shocked that it got that many views in such a short period of time. Please share this video. Let's help people to know that that information is incorrect. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.